Child's scream shattered mansion's silence. At top of staircase, woman gripped head of 6-year-old girl and pulled hard on golden locks, tangling them between fingers before raising scissors that gleamed under morning light. "Mom, please don't cut my hair," Camila begged, face bathed in tears and body hunched on stone steps. But Renata, stepmother, showed no compassion. Tight red dress highlighted contrast with her hard gaze and scarlet-painted lips. She breathed heavily, full of rage, while squeezing child's shoulder with one hand and with other opening and closing scissor blades, making metallic sound resonate through foyer. Lock fell to floor, small but too heavy for child's heart. Camila felt as if losing with that lock last memory of real mother, who always caressed her hair before sleep. Between sobs, tried to resist, grabbing onto blue and white dress that was wrinkled and splattered with water. Shortly before, broken glass had provoked stepmother's fury. Banal accident had become cruel sentence. Outside, some neighbors heard crying and stopped before door. Man pulled dog's leash, murmuring, "Poor little thing." Gray-haired woman shook head silently, but nobody approached. Gazes pierced through gates, powerless, while sound of scissors cut again. Camila grabbed dress hem with trembling fingers, wanted to run to bedroom, hug worn brown bear mother had left her, but was trapped. Each pull from stepmother tore away piece of childhood. "Your disgrace, Camila, daughter of wealthy but always dirty and clumsy. You'll learn to obey my way." Renata's voice resonated through hallway, shrill like knife on glass. More locks fell to floor, mixing with child's tears, her reddened eyes fixed on emptiness. It was as if whole world had turned back on her. Then sound of tires tearing asphalt broke scene. Luxury car stopped before gate. Black Bugatti's lights reflected on iron gate. Dry sound of door opening made scissors freeze in air. Tall man entered garden, brown suit, dark hair sprinkled with gray, gaze cold as steel. In left hand, leather briefcase. In right, green stuffed dinosaur, gift bought during trip just ended. Was Julio Méndez, millionaire, tech entrepreneur, widower for 4 years, known as hard man in business but invisible as father at home. In that instant, however, work, contracts, and public image lost all value. Everything reduced to scene before him. His daughter kneeling, hair cut in pieces, and stepmother standing with scissors in hand. Silence became heavy. Neighbors stepped back. Even dogs stopped barking. Julio remained motionless few seconds, gift crushed between fingers. Chest rose and fell in short waves, face hardened into ice mask. When finally spoke, deep voice resonated in garden-like sentence. "Renata, what do you think you're doing?" Camila raised tearful eyes, breath-catching. Small heart raced as if for first time in long while there was chance of protection. Renata shuddered but didn't release scissors. Hardened face oscillated between fury and pretense, sought support from neighbors but found only reproachful looks. In that moment, invisible thread united father and daughter. He looked at her and saw not just cut hair but sleepless nights, scratches explained with excuses, heavy silence during meals. Realized too late all that had been before eyes. Camila sobbed, gripping dress tighter. Golden locks scattered on floor gleamed like mute witnesses. Julio took step forward. Shadow projected over steps, covering small figure of daughter. Air smelled of fear, but also something new. Like promise of confrontation that could no longer be postponed. What city are you watching this video from and what time is it? By the way, if you're enjoying my videos, I'd be so happy if you could subscribe to my channel and like this video. If this story has moved you so far, subscribe to channel right now, because what comes next is even more intense and you won't want to miss it. Silence following Julio's phrase seemed heavier than any scream. Renata, with scissors still raised, sketched forced smile. "Darling, it's not what it seems." But what seemed was visible to all. Camila, kneeling, sobbing, with hair locks scattered on floor, neighbors motionless on other side of gate, and Julio standing, crushing stuffed dinosaur with tense fingers. He took 2 firm steps. Sound resonated in foyer. "Release my daughter now." Renata hesitated. Eyes gleamed between rage and calculation. Finally released Camila's hair but kept scissors raised as if still had some power. Camila stumbled to corner of staircase, hugging knees. Small body trembled, but there was thread of hope in tearful eyes, as if father's presence were wall against everything. Renata raised chin. "You're never home, Julio. Never. And now you want to play hero? This child is spoiled, ungrateful, needs discipline, not pampering." Words bounced off walls. Venomous. Julio breathed deeply, jaw clenched. For first time saw up-close signs he'd ignored for months. Daughter's deep dark circles, hunched shoulders, way she always averted gaze when he asked if she was okay. Noise interrupted argument. Julio's phone vibrated in leather briefcase. He took out device and saw a name he didn't expect. Teacher Marta. Answered with voice still trembling. Marta, what happened? On other side, teacher spoke in low, distressed voice. Mr. Julio, I couldn't stay quiet anymore. Camila comes to school with bruises on arms. Never says anything, but behavior has changed. I suspected and today decided to call. Her voice failed. World spun. Room seemed smaller, suffocating. Thank you, Marta. I understand. Hanging up, Julio realized Camila was staring at him intently, as if each word had pierced silence. He fell to knees before her, touching cut hair. My God, daughter, why didn't you ever tell me? Answer only came in form of tears. Renata struck scissors against railing. This is cheap theater. That child manipulates everyone, don't you see? But neighbors still observing from gate began to murmur. Gray-haired woman shook head, pointing inside. Man with dog-raised mobile phone, recording discreetly. What before was secret behind closed doors now became public. Julio stood up. Weight on shoulders was that of years of absence, but rage burning in chest pushed him forward. It's over, Renata. You won't touch my daughter again. He took scissors from her hand with abrupt movement. Metallic sound of object hitting floor resonated like verdict. Renata's eyes widened. For first time seemed to have no control over situation. Took few steps backward, stumbling on hem of own dress. Farce built with such zeal began to crumble before witnesses. Camila slowly stood and hugged father by waist. Contact made Julio feel how thin, fragile, and shrunken she was. He passed hand through cut hair and felt deep pain, stronger than any business defeat. At door, someone commented, "This can't stay like this. He has to do something." Julio knew it. That moment was point of no return. Wasn't enough to scold or ignore. Teacher's call, daughter's eyes, neighbors as witnesses, everything conspired to push him to make decision. He looked at Renata with coldness he didn't know in himself. Tomorrow morning I'll go to court and you'll answer for every tear my daughter has shed. Renata laughed, but sound came out trembling. You think you can destroy me? You don't know who you're dealing with. And she stormed out through hallway, like wounded beast still planning to attack. Julio's heart beat uncoordinatedly. He hugged daughter, feeling her warmth against chest. Roar of car engine starting in garden announced Renata's escape. But he knew that wouldn't end there. Was only beginning of war. That night seemed endless. Julio couldn't sleep. Sitting in office armchair, watched Camila sleep on nearby sofa, hugging brown bear that had already lost its shine. With each breath escaping during sleep, wondered how many times daughter had nightmares without him there to protect her. Mobile vibrated, anonymous message. Don't think you can push me away like this. I know secrets about you that would destroy your career. Julio squeezed device so hard knuckles turned white. Renata wouldn't back down easily. Threat, though veiled, had enough poison to corrode his peace. Next morning decided to act. Sought teacher Marta at school. She received him in small room with walls covered in colorful drawings. But heavy air betrayed conversation topic. I tried to believe it was just impression, Marta confessed, holding folder. But Camilla's no longer same. Avoids contact, gets scared with touches, draws shadowy figures. Here are records. Julio opened folder. Dates, notes, small observations about withdrawn behavior, bruises on arms, drop in performance. With each page, guilt weighed more. I should have seen it. Should have noticed. Marta placed hand on table. What's important is you've seen it now, but you have to protect your daughter immediately. While they talked, Camila peeked through half-open door. Attentive, insecure eyes sought in father's face signs he wouldn't leave this time. That afternoon, Julio received another call, this time from Dr. Carvalho, lifelong lawyer. Julio, your decision is risky. Going to justice means exposing your personal life, businesses, image. Renata can use any detail against you. I'd rather lose contracts than lose my daughter. But deep inside, fear burned. Knew Renata maintained dangerous ties with one of biggest competitors, Rodrigo Vasquez. There were rumors of confidential information exchange. If came to light, business empire could crumble. That night, something unexpected happened. While putting away toys in Camila's room, found small wooden box under bed. Inside were cut hair locks, carefully stored, along with notes scribbled in childish handwriting. If I lose my hair, I lose my mother. If I stay quiet, maybe she'll leave me alone. Brief words hit Julio like punches. Was more than abuse. Was slow destruction of daughter's identity. Clock struck 2 a.m. when heard sound of tires outside. Black car parked few minutes in front of mansion. No movement beyond lit headlights. Julio turned off lights, hugged Camila against chest, and remained silent until car disappeared. Next day, decided to file complaint. At police station was received by Delegate Elena, woman with firm countenance. She listened in silence, noting each detail. If what you say is confirmed, we'll have to act quickly, but prepare yourself. Cases like this rarely end without violent confrontations. Returning home, found office door ajar. On table, envelope with no sender. Inside, printed photos. Him entering hotels during business trips, in meetings with investors, and brief note written in red letters. Think carefully before confronting me. Renata was playing hard. Message was clear. If he reported abuse, she'd expose his life. Weight of decision crushed each step. But when entered room and saw Camila curled in corner, combing bare as if it were herself, doubt vanished. Father's heart was stronger than any threat. Still, tension only increased. Neighbors began commenting. Work colleagues whispered in hallways. Case that before was private had now become public rumor. Julio felt noose tightening. Protecting daughter also meant waging battle against own reputation. Camila, for her part, began opening up with small gestures. Gave father drawing, her, him, and mother, holding hands under yellow sun. But in corner of paper was red figure with scissors in hands. She said she'll come back, Dad. Words trembled like prophecy. Julio knew in that instant war was just beginning. What would you do in his place? Write here in comments. I really want to know your opinion. Courthouse was full. Echo of footsteps against cold floor, mixed with contained murmur of journalists, neighbors, and curious onlookers. Julio entered holding Camila's hand. She firmly held green stuffed dinosaur as if it were her shield against world. On other side appeared Renata. Dark dress, impeccable makeup, upright posture as if she were true victim. Beside her, Rodrigo Vasquez, business rival, offered confident smile. Shock ran through Julio's body. Now was clear. Battle wasn't just for daughter's custody, was also war to destroy his name and life. Judge asked for silence. Sound of wooden gavel resonated like thunder. Camila shrank on bench, glancing sideways at father. Julio breathed deeply. Had to be strong. Not just as businessman accustomed to tough negotiations, but as father before greatest negotiation of his life, daughter's childhood. Renata was first to speak. Sweet voice contrasted with poison of words. Your Honor, I've cared for this child as if she were mine, but she's problematic. Invents stories, manipulates to get attention. Mr. Julio has never been present. Now when realizes can lose image of perfect father, tries to paint me as monster. Words reached him like arrows. Julio closed fists under table. Wanted to scream but restrained himself. Then judge called teacher Marta. Marta entered with firm step, left drawings and reports on table. With all respect, Your Honor, this child has marks that don't come from imagination. I saw bruises, heard her silence from fear. Camila lowered head. Small hands caressed dinosaur, squeezing almost to breaking seam. Renata smiled sarcastically. That proves nothing. Children hurt themselves all time. At that moment, Delegate Elena entered with brown envelope, opened it before everyone and scattered photos. Security camera images showing Renata pushing Camila against wall, dragging her by arm, raising hand to hit. Murmur ran through room. Renata's mask began to crack. Julio looked at daughter, eyes filled with tears, but there was also new gleam, hope of finally being heard. Suddenly, Camila stood up. Trembling but firm voice broke silence. She cut my hair, said without it I'd never remember Mom again, but I remember her every day. Child's words resonated in room like lightning. Julio felt heartbreaking, but also something being born inside. Certainty nothing would ever be same again. Renata, cornered, tried to react. Lies. This child is manipulated by father. But nobody believed her anymore. Even Rodrigo Vasquez looked away, realizing was on wrong side of story. Judge raised hand asking for silence. Sound of pen scratching paper seemed to mark everyone's destiny. Julio hugged daughter, felt short hair brushing against face, reminding him of what had already been lost. But in that moment, what mattered wasn't loss, was victory of finally being able to protect her. Atmosphere was so heavy even air seemed denser. Before and after were before them. There was no turning back, no way to pretend nothing had happened. Sound of Judge's gavel still resonated in Julio's mind hours later. Hearing had ended, but inside him battle was far from over. Left courthouse with Camila in arms. Outside, noise of journalists, flashes, and aggressive questions surrounded him like swarm. Julio lowered head, protecting daughter against chest. Didn't answer anything. Silence was only way to maintain some control. In car, driver asked destination. Julio looked in rearview mirror, found daughter's still tearful eyes and responded, "Not home, to old apartment, the beach one." Trip was silent. Camila fell asleep with head resting on shoulder, dinosaur between arms. Julio slowly passed hand through daughter's short hair, and each caress reminded him had arrived too late, but still in time to prevent worst from continuing. When arrived at small apartment, smell of sea invaded atmosphere, was simple place, forgotten, but loaded with memories of when they were still complete family. Julio opened windows, letting wind enter. Camila woke slowly, looked around and whispered, "Here Mom used to tell stories before sleep." Phrase pierced chest like knife. He sat beside her on sofa and simply took hand. For first time didn't try to explain, justify, or distract with cell phone, simply stayed there. Following hours became eternal. Julio, accustomed to controlling companies and meetings, now felt lost before daughter's silence. Each look from her seemed to ask for something he didn't know how to give. Protection, forgiveness, time. At night, while she drew at table, he watched. Paper showed sea, sun, and 3 figures holding hands. But Mother's figure was blurred, as if had been erased and redrawn several times. Julio approached. "Want to tell me what you drew?" Camila only shook head, gripping pencil tightly. Weight of next day fell on him. Public life already boiled with rumors. Renata, though unmasked, still had allies. Newspapers announced imminent fall of company stocks. Julio knew it. Fight hadn't ended, but looking at daughter realized nothing else mattered if wasn't capable of rebuilding that small life before him. Before sleeping, Camila curled beside him on sofa. Voice sounded low, almost whisper. "Are you going to leave me alone again, Dad?" Heart sank. Swallowed hard, fighting guilt. "Never again, daughter. Never again." She closed eyes and fell asleep with that promise. Julio stayed awake, staring at ceiling. Silence only broken by sound of sea outside. New scars wouldn't disappear quickly. But that moment was beginning. Painful, silent, but real. He picked up scissors he'd kept, same ones Renata had used to cut daughter's hair. Looked at cold metal. In another moment would simply have thrown them away, but now decided to keep them in wooden box, not as memory of pain, but as witness to oath. Never again ignore signs. Weight of object in hands was also weight of own transformation. Was no longer just confident millionaire, was marked but awake father. Next day took Camila to beach. Wind stirred short hair, and for first time she ran on sand without looking back. Julio watched with lump in throat. Marks were there, but there was also flash of freedom. He dropped onto sand, tie loosened and shoes forgotten. Breathed deeply. Felt salt in air, cold water on feet. Was as if after climax came necessary void to learn to start over. 2 months later, beach apartment no longer seemed improvised refuge, but home in reconstruction. Routine was still full of patches, but Julio and Camila learned together to sow new life. That Saturday sun entered through window illuminating coffee table. Camila laughed softly while spreading butter on bread, leaving amusing mess on plate. Julio watched in silence with discreet smile on face. Small gestures that before would pass unnoticed, now were treasures. On shelf, teddy bear had company. New storybooks they read every night. Beside it, closed wooden box kept scissors. Not a symbol of pain, but reminder there was survival, courage, and promise. Camila had returned to school. Drawings were no longer gloomy but full of vivid colors. Yellow sun, blue sea, and 2 figures holding hands. her and father. Showing drawing to Marta, teacher smiled emotionally. She started to believe in tomorrow again. At work, Julio faced consequences. Scandal had affected contracts. Headlines exposed him, but nothing was more important than peace of seeing daughter sleep without fear. I can lose companies, but won't lose my family again, he repeated to himself. One afternoon on beach, Camila ran toward him with hair already grown, loose in wind. Look, Dad, I'm already different. He crouched, hugged tightly, and responded, You've always been perfect. Just now nobody else can take that from you. Her laughter mixed with sound of waves. Julio realized despite scars, something new was blooming. Hope. Sometimes life breaks what we believed was solid, but from what remains we can choose to raise something truer. Not everything gets fixed. Some things only get cared for, and an end that's already lot. And you who followed this story to here, perhaps also have invisible scars. Perhaps also felt you've lost too much to start over, but truth is there's always piece of ground where we can plant again. Sometimes that piece is small, silent, but it's real. You're not alone. Stories like Julio's and Camila's are reminders even deepest pains can give way to new life. Thank you for watching to end. Means a lot to me. If this story has reached your soul, subscribe here to channel and continue this journey with us. And if you can, consider supporting us with super thanks. This gesture gives us strength to keep bringing you stories that reach heart. And don't stop. Here's another video right beside. 2 months later, beach apartment no longer seemed improvised refuge, but home in reconstruction. Routine was still full of patches, but Julio and Camila learned together to sow new life. That Saturday sun entered through window illuminating coffee table. Camila laughed softly while spreading butter on bread, leaving amusing mess on plate. Julio watched in silence with discreet smile on face. Small gestures that before would pass unnoticed, now were treasures. On shelf, Teddy Bear had company. New storybooks they read every night. Beside it, closed wooden box kept scissors. Not as symbol of pain, but as reminder there was survival, courage, and promise. Camila had returned to school. Her drawings were no longer gloomy, but full of vivid colors. Yellow sun, blue sea, and 2 figures holding hands, her and father. Upon showing drawing to Marta, teacher smiled emotionally. She started to believe in tomorrow again. At work, Julio faced consequences. Scandal had affected contracts. Headlines exposed him, but nothing was more important than peace of seeing daughter sleep without fear. I can lose companies, but won't lose my family again, he repeated to himself. One afternoon on beach, Camila ran toward him with hair already grown, loose in wind. Look, Dad, I'm already different. He crouched, hugged tightly, and responded, You've always been perfect. Just now nobody else can take that from you. Her laughter mixed with sound of waves. Julio realized, despite scars, something new was blooming. Hope. Breakfast became sacred time. Camila insisted on helping prepare pancakes, even though batter often ended up on counter. Julio laughed, genuine laugh that hadn't escaped his chest in years. We're terrible cooks, he admitted one morning. But we're getting better, Camila replied with a smile that made everything worth it. School mornings were different now. Julio personally drove her, walked her to classroom door. Other parents noticed change, whispered about Millionaire who'd chosen daughter over empire. Some looks were judgmental, others respectful, but Julio no longer cared. Only thing that mattered was small hand in his. One afternoon, Camila came home with paper trembling in hands. Dad, we have to write about our hero for class. She sat at table, pencil hovering. Then slowly began. My hero is my dad because he saved me when I thought nobody would. Tears blurred Julio's vision. He knelt beside chair. You saved yourself too, sweetheart, by being brave enough to let someone see. Weekends became adventures. They explored tide pools, built sand castles that waves destroyed, flew kites that tangled. These weren't activities meant to erase past, were moments creating new memories strong enough to stand alongside old ones. But healing wasn't linear. Some nights, Camila still woke screaming from nightmares. Julio would rush in, holding her until trembling stopped. I'm here. You're safe. She can't hurt you anymore. There were difficult days when Camila regressed, refused to speak, drew dark figures again. On those days, Julio practiced patience he never knew he possessed. Didn't push, didn't demand. Just stayed close, available, present. As summer approached, Camila's hair had grown to shoulders. One morning before mirror, running fingers through locks. It's getting long again. Julio joined her. Do you want to cut it? She shook head. No, I want to grow it. But because I want to, not because someone said I have to. Another milestone, reclaiming autonomy over own body. 6 months after courthouse, Camila asked if they could visit Mother's grave. At cemetery, placed drawing against headstone, picture of 3 of them together, happy. Talked to Mother. Hi Mom, I miss you lots. Dad's taking good care of me now. I think you'd be proud of us. Julio couldn't speak past lump in throat. On way home, Camila said quietly, I think Mom sent you back to save me. That day you came home early never happens. I think Mom told you to come. By end of summer, Beach House felt permanent. Julio had quietly put mansion on market. Too many bad memories. This smaller space filled with laughter and healing was their real home. One evening, watching sunset, Camila leaned against Father's shoulder. Dad? I'm glad you see me now. I'm glad I see you too, sweetheart. And I'll never stop looking. As stars emerged, Julio realized they'd taken their brokenness and built something beautiful from pieces. Wasn't perfect life. Still had hard days, moments of doubt, echoes of trauma. But was real life, honest life, fought for life. Sometimes life breaks what we believed was solid. But from what remains, we can choose to raise something truer. Not everything gets fixed. Some things only get cared for. And in end, that's already lot. And you who've followed this story to here, perhaps also have invisible scars. Perhaps felt you've lost too much to start over. But truth is, there's always piece of ground where we can plant again. Sometimes that piece is small, silent, but it's real. You're not alone. Stories like Julio's and Camila's are reminders, even deepest pains can give way to new life. Thank you for watching to end. Means a lot to me. If this story has reached your soul, subscribe here to channel and continue this journey with us. And if you can, consider supporting us with super thanks. This gesture gives us strength to keep bringing stories that reach heart. And don't stop. Here's another video right beside you.